your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. NordVPN.com, that's NORDVPN.com. Not just a glove, it's a 44 Pro. Crafted with dedication, made for performance, and built to last. Get your custom glove today at 44pro.com and experience the 44 Pro difference. That's 44pro.com. 44 Pro.
Our patented handles were launched in 2018. We continue to push the boundaries of strength training. Join us in making your training more natural and effective. Visit Engels90.com to learn more and revolutionize your workout.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator.
Introducing Bark in the Belly Premium Dog Food. 100% of profits go to help dogs in need.
Over 30% of adults struggle with chronic foot and joint pain, and many face mobility limitations as they age. But a revolutionary Comfort First slipper has taken the wellness world by storm. Try Cloud Slides and feel you are walking on the clouds. Cloud Slides.
Hello there, welcome on in to another episode of the Wicked Boston Show with Cam Stuart, brought to you in part by Rogue Media Network and in part by Zach Burke, who's behind the glass, keeping us on the air 5 days a week, live on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts as well. Today, Red Sox heavy, because somehow the Red Sox most perfect fit, their biggest target in this offseason, is going to another team in their division. Not the evil empire New York Yankees, not the defending AL champion Toronto Blue Jays, but rather the Baltimore Orioles. We will react to the Pete Alonso fallout. We will have Jackson Roberts of Red Sox on SI, who we were just talking about Pete Alonso with the other day. He'll come on and react and also talk about the pivot that could save the Red Sox offseason when it comes to hitters. And hitters are big in the NHL, but goal scorers are even better. Morgan Geekie, what a season he's having. Is he finally getting the respect he deserves? And is it time to reflect on his awesome story on how he got here? All that and more coming up on this episode of the Wicked Boston Show with Cam Stewart. We start where we start. It's in the thumbnail. It's why you're here. The talk around Boston today is not quiet, and it's outrageous in a way. Because Pete Alonso, the number one target for the Red Sox in this offseason, has turned them down. And he has signed a 5-year, $155 million deal with the Baltimore Orioles, of all teams. And it was not a great day for Red Sox Nation when this hit the headlines. I just about lost it when I saw this deal. And I know there is time. I know there are ways they can pivot. I know there are other hitters out there that could fill needs for the Red Sox. But make no mistake, this is a failure by the Boston Red Sox again. When we break it down to its core here, he's a guy who plays every day. He hits 35 homers a year in his sleep. And a team that is desperate for a right-handed power hitter gets outbid by the Baltimore freaking Orioles. This is where Red Sox fans just continue to lose their minds year after year. Based on the signings and the trade/extension they made last year, I don't think the Red Sox are cheap. Okay, I think it's kind of a lazy narrative to just go out there and say, oh, the Red Sox are cheap. But based on the evidence, at least just in these last 2 years, they might not be cheap, but they are too cheap. They're too cheap for this market. They're too cheap for the big names. This is the second offseason in a row where the Red Sox, the fans anyway, have had the hope to fill their biggest need on the roster with one of the two biggest names in the market at that position. Right? Last year, it was the starting pitcher. And the reports were the Red Sox can sign 2 of the 3 top names on the market. Max Fried, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell. Take your pick of 2 of them. They're Red Sox. They didn't get any of those guys. This year, you need power. From the right-handed side of the plate specifically, but you need power more than anything. You can't go to the ALCS and beyond with your leading home run hitter having 24 bombs. Like that's just that you can't live like that. And any Red Sox team that's successful in the past will show you that, and any team that's successful right now will show you that. So this year it was the power hitter. There were 2 power hitters on the market, Kyle Schwarber and Pete Alonso. One of them loved playing here, had already played here. The other married a woman from Quincy. And now everyone's packing up from the winter meetings, and you didn't come away with either of them. Schwarber was a bit more of a reach, but Alonso, how do you not get that guy as the Boston Red Sox? Like, I'm sorry to throw out this superiority complex, but come on. A bidding war for a 35 home run hitter, and the Orioles are outbidding the Red Sox when the Red Sox desperately need one? Again, I'm fully putting out there that I'm probably overreacting. But this feels like missing out on Teixeira in 2009. And that was something the Red Sox really regretted for a couple of years. And the Yankees went on to win the World Series. It was the only time in the last 20 years or so that the Yankees got this definitive win over the Red Sox in free agency. And it hurt the Red Sox and really helped the Yankees, right? They won the World Series. So that's kind of what it feels like right now. I don't think the Orioles are going to win the World Series. But missing out on Teixeira alone really hurt the Red Sox. And 2 years later, they went out and got Adrian Gonzalez, and for a season, that looked really good. And then it fell off the face of the earth. And all of a sudden, the Red Sox were in rebuild mode. So there was a domino effect there. And last year, obviously, was a trade for Garrett Crochet. I'd say that worked out pretty well, quite handsomely, actually, for the Red Sox. And that's great. Like, kudos to the team for that. That was a really good Craig Breslow move, especially if they go and get Kyle Teal back. But that's a different story. But you look at it, like, none of the other teams competing for championships in Major League Baseball work this way. You know, it is working out for now. Like, you're probably ahead of schedule with the way you played last year and the farm system you've got, right? But none of the other teams competing for championships are relying solely on the trade market and trading away their assets. Like, whether it's the big money external free agent moves or the massive extensions, this is how these teams compete. Right? You look at the Dodgers, obviously. The Dodgers, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Phillies, they all have big money free agents on their rosters. They've got Ohtani and Yamamoto and Freeman and Judge and Guerrero and Harper and Schwarber, and the Red Sox, that's their big money free agent that's on the roster right now. That's it. All due respect to Trevor Story. What a good year last year. Still strikes out 5 times as many times he walks. But still, like, come on. That's not competing. And in fact, what's crazy still, to bring up 6 months later, you did have one of these kinds of contracts with Rafael Devers, and it was working. And I'm not trying to do revisionist history because I was pissed off about the whole, first base, third base thing. I didn't think that Rafi Devers was a good teammate last year, but I also didn't think that means you had to trade him for nothing. You shoved that contract away to the first team that would eat the entire contract and give you their scrap metal. And then everyone pushed it off to say, well, wait till they see what they do in the offseason. Look at how they'll replace him. They've got all this money. And now what? There are some good hitters on the market, including Alex Bregman. But the pure power guys who could replace Rafi Devers with those numbers, they're gone. You've lost out on them. Those guys go pretty quickly in free agency. You traded away a guy making $30.09 million a year for absolutely nothing. You identify as replacement a guy who is arguably a better home run hitter than Devers, and you won't pay him $31 million a year. Of course Red Sox fans are going to be upset about that. Of course they are. You'd be silly to think they're not. Because lest we forget, they're also supposed to be going for this alpha starting pitcher to go alongside Garrett Crochet, and so far it's been Sonny Gray. Nice player. Hoping for a bounce-back year. I know Alex Cora said he thinks they can bring that ERA down basically a run by the outfield they have. Cedon in center and Willier in right, because that's where a lot of the power is going against Sonny Gray. To me, that sounds like a cost-cutting maneuver, okay? But, hey, it's too early to be freaking out the way I am at this point in the cycle. There's so much time. I know this. I know that I'm sick. But this Red Sox fan base, we smell success. Like, there are a few moves that the Red Sox could absolutely make this winter that can make this team a legitimate World Series contender next year. So anytime these big names just slip away, especially the ones that are like literally perfect for your team's holes right now, and they're signing within your division, yeah, we get impatient. And another thing, if the Red Sox are really turned off by Pete Alonso's age, which are the reports, and that's why the reports say they were way off the number that he eventually got, I've got some bad news. He's younger than Alex Bregman. It's by 9 months, but he is younger than Alex Bregman. So it's once again, it feels like the Red Sox trying to play both sides of the aisle here, trying to save money, but show the fan base that they're trying, but you lowballed the best power hitter available to you, the best right-handed power hitter on the market. You lowballed him, and he's going within your division. And now you're left with still Trevor Story. That's it for right-handed power. Not a position the Red Sox want to be in, certainly not where they wanted to be after the winter meetings. I think I'm freaking out too much, but what do you think? Am I freaking out too much? Is there still time? Is there a pivot in your mind that could make the Red Sox real winners? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, we come at you live every weekday, noon Eastern time on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts as well. Your lunchtime alternative to Boston Sports Talk Radio right here on the Wicked Boston Show with Cam Stewart. When we come back, someone is going to keep me in check and going to tell me that this isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to the Red Sox franchise. Jackson Roberts of Sports Illustrated will be joining us. We just talked to Pete Alonso the other day, so it's only right we bring him on to react to this and get the inside scoop on who the Red Sox pivot is going to be and why that's a great thing. It's coming up next on the Wicked Boston Show.
At 4U Health, we believe wellness and lab testing should be accessible, inclusive, and yes, fun. With our tech-powered at-home lab test, you save time and money while feeling your best. 4U Health. Visit 4uhealth.com today. With a focus on performance, design, and customer service, we're here to help you work smarter, not harder. Join us on our journey to simplify your world. Visit acasis.com today. That's ACASIS.com today.
Apollo Neuro is a new kind of wearable that helps your body recover from stress, that helps you calm down and feel better. You sleep better, and you can get back to being yourself. Learn more at apolloneuro.com.
But boy, it looked effortless.
Man, watch this.
Layups, floaters, threes. He was like an unsolvable equation.
I was born like this.
His resilience, his strength, his belief, adversity never stood a chance.
Know your power.
Introducing Muck-Off's classic pink bike cleaner, powered by revolutionary nanotechnology that breaks down dirt and grime on a microscopic level while protecting your bike's delicate finish. us.muc-off.com.
The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. U-Like.
Let's get back to it. Wicked Boston Show with Cam Stewart here on the Rogue Media Sports Network, live on YouTube every weekday, noon Eastern time, and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. The sky is falling around Red Sox Nation. Pete Alonso, not a Red Sox. He's now a Baltimore Oriole for 5 years and $155 million. For me, that was the number one target for hitters anyway, for the Red Sox in this offseason. And a lot of fans are thinking that way with the way they're crashing out. To help keep this all into perspective, we had him on talking Pete Alonso the other day. It's only right we bring him on again. From Sports Illustrated, Jackson Roberts joins the show to try and keep us all just a little bit calmer. Jackson, I'm not going to lie to you. I was freaking out when I saw this. I'm still not comfortable with it. I didn't sleep very well last night. This was the guy for me. Like, this was the guy. What was your reaction to the headline?
The first reaction was surprised that it was the Baltimore Orioles. And I think I've rationalized it since then. The more I've sort of looked into what the Orioles are doing this offseason, have done last offseason, they really wanted to spend money last offseason. And they just kind of didn't find the right fit to do it. And they got turned down by Corbin Burns because they were nervous about extending him long-term. And then he immediately got injured. So they probably weren't wrong to do so. So I think the Orioles are clearly announcing themselves as, a legitimate fourth force in this division, maybe fifth, because you never know if the Rays are going to be good. The Red Sox have lost out on their two top home run hitting targets. And while I never really thought Kyle Schwarber was in play, I certainly thought Pete Alonso was in play. So I don't think it's the end of the world in a sense that, there's ways to put some power into things, but there's also you can do a signing here, you can do a trade there. I think, from what I've seen in the past 24 hours, it's you get two of Alex Bregman, Ketel Marte, and Eugenio Suarez, and you can sort of make it all up in the aggregate. But it's definitely an obstacle because Pete Alonso is a pretty clear path to adding power. And I think the main thing that's sitting with people is the fact that they didn't really seem to be, competent or competitive in the bidding process. And I think that's, a refrain Red Sox fans have heard too many times before.
Yeah, it's just following the same process, isn't it? These Red Sox reporters, they're putting out there that, hey, this isn't a pipe dream. This is real. There's real interest here. And of course, we know the Red Sox do have money to spend, and to just hear, oh yeah, they were kind of in the ballpark to a team like the Baltimore Orioles, it brings out the worst in us. You know what I mean? It brings out the worst of the wintertime Red Sox fan. And, we're going to get to pivots in just a minute here because there are players and there's time, which is the great thing for the Red Sox and for Red Sox fans. But would you consider this a big miss at the beginning of free agency?
I think I consider it more of a miss than I would have initially, just purely based on the fact that I don't I think him getting 5 years was reasonable from the outset. And I also think that the fact that he didn't end up going back to the Mets, the fact that you got outbid by a team in your own division, from what it sounds like significantly, I want to see what the actual offer was, because people are saying less years and less dollars. But does that mean they offered 4 years, 110 or 4 years, 130? Because those would maybe elicit two different reactions. But at the same time, I've heard it said before, and it always rings true, that if you try to make the efficient or the smart signings in free agency all the time, you better get used to coming in third place. Essentially, a team is going to overextend their means to make the signing because the player is really good, and Pete Alonso is a really good hitter. So I don't fully know where that leaves us, but I certainly think that there's pivots you can make, but I think it's reasonable to feel, some disappointment because this was a legitimate target that it seems like the Red Sox didn't really put their hat in the ring as much as, they quote unquote should have.
Yeah. So maybe it is just a fifth year, but what do you think were the holdups when looking at Pete Alonso? We've gone through some of the weaknesses in his game. Personally, I don't think it's that big a deal. For $31 million doesn't shock me for Pete Alonso in his 30s. No. So what do you think the holdups are from the Red Sox end?
Yeah, people are saying age, and I don't necessarily think that the Red Sox are scared of people in their mid-30s. It's become very clear with, the Bayo and the Crochet extensions and even the Roman Anthony extension. They're scared of paying people in their mid-30s. Alex Bregman's contract last year. But at the same time, it can't just be that. And I think some of it may be, the slight diminishments in bat speed we've seen over the past couple of years that everyone was talking about last offseason.
Which was a big thing for Devers that we heard afterwards. Well, I don't know if that was just them throwing out the excuse, but that could be consistent with that.
Yeah, well, Devers, you never knew with were his shoulders healthy? Was he just eating a lot? At any given time, he could be in peak physical condition or not, and you kind of had no idea. You just had to read the data and see what you thought. But with Alonso, I think it's a concern about him not being able to maintain a defensive position. They hate the thought of having a full-time DH. Apparently, that's another reason why they gave the excuse to get rid of Devers. So I think it's a combination of things, and at the end of the day, they just want guys on their terms, and that's just not really how it operates. So they're obviously, the thing is they can trade for anybody, right? And that's how they've their biggest acquisition last offseason was a trade, and their biggest ones so far this offseason have been trades. So clearly, they have no problem like giving up prospect capital. And so far they've done a good job of like beefing up their farm system since last year when they, decimated that prospect capital. But, we've yet to see them like really step up and be the Red Sox again in this window of contention in free agency. And I don't think the Bregman contract counts. So that's what we're all waiting for at this point.
Speaking of the Bregman contract, I know these guys are two different players, right? Pete's the home run guy. They're both 31. Bregman's more effective in the field. They're both still good hitters. What does this do for Bregman's market? Does this change it much at all to see 5 years by 155 for Pete Alonso?
I don't know that it does. I mean, the Orioles, I don't think we're going to be a Bregman team. Obviously, they have Jordan Westburg, and I think this was really finally getting their guy. So the other teams that we know about on the board for Bregman, I'm not really intimidated by any of them right now. I mean, you've got the Cubs are saying they love Matt Shaw, and they might be right to love Matt Shaw. He looked really good in the second half of last year. The Tigers may have screwed themselves by offering the qualifying offer to Gleyber Torres because now they're crying broke. And, you certainly can't sign Alex Bregman and trade Tarek Skubal. Like, nobody's going to rationalize that. So do you have the money to, like, do a Bregman contract and go all in on 1 year? I don't really feel convinced that's what the Tigers are going to do. So I do feel like at this juncture, the Red Sox are kind of the clear favorites for Bregman, and they kind of are. I mean, they love to play a dangerous game of just waiting out the market, right? So that's what I feel like is going to happen, and I don't know how soon it's going to come to a resolution. We also saw the wording was great on this, bit of reporting from the Seattle Times yesterday. It was basically Scott Boras reached out to the Mariners to say, please be interested in Alex Bregman, and the Mariners don't seem to be interested. So it's, it seems like they're the favorites, but you certainly can't count anything until it happens.
And nobody quite driving up that price yet, which is, I guess, silver lining, I guess, for the Red Sox fans. Jackson Roberts of Sports Illustrated joining the show, second time this week. Of course, we had to bring him back in. We're reacting to the Pete Alonso deal signing with the Baltimore Orioles. And now that the Red Sox have missed out on him.
It's a good question because there's not, I think everyone can kind of formulate their own plan. And right now, just like from where I'm standing, I feel like Ketel Marte is like the best option / there's a lot of smoke building around Ketel Marte right now. We had multiple insiders today say that one of their biggest takeaways from the winter meetings was that they felt like the Diamondbacks went into the week thinking that Marte wasn't going to get traded and left the week feeling like he was. And the only team that we've consistently heard linked to the Diamondbacks, like they're in on this, is the Tigers may be in. Again, I have my doubts about the Tigers doing anything this offseason. The Cincinnati Reds, like I'm not nervous about that. The Blue Jays were in it for a second, then they came back out of it. The Mariners didn't seem like they were ever that interested. So I feel like if Marte gets traded, famous last words here, because any team could pop out of nowhere at any time. But I feel like if Marte gets traded, it's going to be to Boston. I feel the only issue with like a Bregman Marte offseason is where does that leave Marcelo Meyer? Because you've spent all this time waiting for him to arrive in the majors, and now you're basically just blocking him out with a elite second baseman, elite third baseman. But I think that's a bridge they would cross when they come to it, because I think those are the two top targets right now. I could see a world where them trading for Marte doesn't enable them to re-sign Bregman, and I wouldn't be thrilled with that, but I think I'd be okay with it because Bregman's great, leadership, glove, all that. Marte's a better hitter. He just is. And they're the same age, and it's and I know there was some weird stuff this year with the clubhouse situation, him staying home in the DR after the All-Star break, but like, I think everybody gets one of those, right? Like if Marte has like a long history of being like a bad clubhouse guy, then that's something that scares you off. But I think everybody gets one. And I think the Red Sox deserve a do-over to show that they don't just alienate everyone that's ever been considered a clubhouse cancer. So that's where I stand on the whole thing, is I think Marte is my 1A with Bregman as my 1B, but really close to A as well.
Yeah, so that last part, that's really interesting, right? Because the Bob Nightingale report comes out, and he basically says, the Red Sox could be getting Ketel Marte because they could be saying, we're not waiting for Bregman. We're going to go out and get Marte. And so obviously with the Marcelo Meyer of this all, that puts it into perspective, but I wasn't even thinking that it was an either or, but it could end up being an either or here. So if let's just play out the fantasy baseball great scenario that you get Ketel Marte and re-sign Alex Bregman, how then does that work with Marcelo Meyer and opted in Trevor Story?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very decent chance Marcelo Meyer gets traded in that scenario, although I don't necessarily think it's a guarantee. And I also think that right now, Marcelo Meyer has to prove he can stay on the field for a whole season. Hasn't done that in the minors, certainly didn't do it in the majors when he got his chance this year. So I think that they're perfectly okay with him being an opening day starting infielder right now, but I don't think they're going to let his presence stop them from making these kinds of moves. So I think they don't really know what they would do with Meyer at this point if they were to bring in both Bregman and Marte, but I think they would certainly have to consider trades if they did do that. And yeah, I don't know if there's any other way to do it because you're not going to play any of those guys at first base. Their gloves are all too valuable, even Story. And Story's bat's not really first base viable anyway. So I think that would all, like that scenario might be like stock arrow up Tristan Casas, stock arrow down Marcelo Meyer. And I certainly think there's I would say better than 50% chance that one of those two guys is traded. I don't think that's revolutionary, but I'm not ruling anything out because we truly don't know like what the talent pool is going to look like. And I think that's exactly how the front office is operating right now too.
Yeah, big winner, Tristan Casas. Big winner of the week, Tristan Casas, potentially. I'm going to be a bit of a dick here, okay? Because I'm gonna put you on the spot just a little bit. So, like, if we're talking about a Marcelo Meyer trade, in your mind, is he more likely to go in one of these number 2 starter trade packages, or does he factor into a Ketel Marte trade, even as a 32-year-old with as valuable as his bat is?
I mean, I could see it. For sure. I think the Diamondbacks, I don't necessarily know that they need another infielder. I don't know. Second base, obviously second base would be open for them if they traded Marte. So I could see it for sure. I'm not ruling that out. And yeah, I haven't really, I don't know what Marcelo Meyer's trade value is right now. Like, I know that this time a year ago, he would have been the headliner of some massive thing. And I don't think he has no value either, but I think teams are definitely scared off by the injury concerns. So could he be the headliner for like a Freddie Peralta trade? I truly don't know at this point. I don't necessarily think the Brewers would be stoked on like a Marcelo Meyer plus B tier prospect trade for Peralta. So I think the Red Sox would have to do some digging around that, and I don't think they've done it yet necessarily. Maybe they have. Craig Breslow's active, but I think it's a weird one that we can't really know until the picture starts to be clear. I mean, I guess he could just be traded right off the bat, right? Like he could be traded for Marte, and that's that. But otherwise, I think there's going to be some secondary ramifications later in the offseason where we start to find out more about Meyer's trade value.
Let's get back to Ketel Marte here, because he's a guy who's probably not talked about enough, just overall around baseball. He plays for Arizona, right? That's part of it. But this dude has been one of the best infield hitters in baseball the last couple of years. I finished top 3 in the MVP voting in 2024. What do you like the most about this kid in terms of 32? What do you like the most about Ketel Marte and how he could fit this Red Sox team?
So much. The bat is just so good all around. He's not a bad defender at all. He's probably an above average second baseman. He'll probably trend more towards average in the next couple of years as he starts to, enter his mid 30s. But the bat is so good. Switch hitter, contact hitter, and power hitter. Slugged above 500 each of the last 2 years. Just well rounded. It's just really. It's the type of bat that any team would want to have. And the fact that they could, theoretically get him for 5 years on an extremely affordable contract, which is right about $100 million in terms of luxury tax number, but it actually weighs less on the payroll because of the significant deferrals that are in it.
Yeah. Most you pay for the contract is the last 2 years before the player option. I just got it in front of me here. 22 million is the most. Yeah. So that's a deal.
Yeah, and a lot of that's deferred, so that's not even 22 million on. It's interesting because some of it is luxury tax lessened, and some of it is like less money up front. So it's like there's a lot of dynamics there, but the bottom line is like he looks cheap, and he actually kind of is even cheaper than it looks on paper. So it's a really good contract to trade for, as long as you assume that like Ketel Marte is going to fit in well with your team and age well over the next 5 years.
All right. So last thing here, let's get it to, let's say around Valentine's Day. You know, pitchers and catchers are reporting to spring training. You've missed out on Pete Alonso and Kyle Schwarber, but I think we were both kind of in that same boat. Didn't think that was going to happen.
He wasn't leaving.
And you get Ketel Marte and Alex Bregman. From an offensive standpoint, is that a win for an offseason for the Red Sox?
I think undeniably, yes. I mean, you didn't fill the first base position specifically, and you didn't add a guaranteed 5-homer bat, but you just take the Red Sox offense from last year and you add Ketel Marte, like that's a win. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And, eventually Roman Anthony's going to have 30-homer pop. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but you have 3 to 5 on any given night, like 3 to 5 guys who can carry that offense. And we'd still have to see what else they would do in that scenario, because there is still the, trade an outfielder proposition buried in this whole thing. So we don't know 100% what the offense would look like. And you could like make the argument maybe that they're better off getting like Marte and Eugenio Suarez than they are Marte and Bregman, but I wouldn't make that argument. I think you just get all the best players you can, and then you worry about the like, oh, do we have enough home run power like at a later date, maybe even at the trade deadline.
Could still be a win. Could still be a big win here. And one of the names we didn't talk about was Suarez, and that's because you wrote about him for Sports Illustrated today. Jackson, tell the people where they can find your work.
Yeah, I think it's like si.com/Red Sox/on/Jackson Roberts or something. There's a lot of stuff in there, but
I could give you the whole URL for the Suarez story if we had the time. I could. Yeah.
It's up. They're all up. Clearly we've had a lot to talk about this week. We've been way over our like typical article budget for the day. Most days on the site this week. And, if the Red Sox keep giving us things to talk about, we'll keep doing that happily.
Absolutely. And as long as this stuff keeps happening, we will keep bringing on Jackson Roberts. I told him, folks, that I don't want him to be the first half Greg Weissert, where I'm just bringing him in every day and his vocal cords are just falling off like Greg Weissert's right arm. But Jackson, I really appreciate it. We obviously did a lot of Pete Alonso the other day, and so I had to bring you on to react to this. Always appreciate your time.
Absolutely. I'll be back the next time we get disappointed.
Yes. Let's go. I'm holding you to that. There he goes, Jackson Roberts of the Red Sox on SI. Man, there's no one we have on this show that knows the whole league like Jackson does. So always appreciate his time. And let me know what you guys think about this Pete Alonso miss and what a Ketel Marte pivot is like. Because honestly, I love Marte. I don't know enough, I should say, about Suarez, but I do love Ketel Marte and that opportunity to bring him to Boston. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We come at you live on YouTube every weekday, noon Eastern time, and then available wherever you get your podcasts as well. It's your lunchtime alternative to Boston Sports Talk Radio. It's right here on the Wicked Boston Show with Cam Stewart. When we come back, we're going to get chilly because we're heading to the ice. The best story in the NHL right now is happening in Boston. And I think finally the rest of the league is starting to notice it. We'll tell you about it next on the Wicked Boston Show.
Experience the perfect blend of exquisite craftsmanship and life-changing technology with Gevi. Every product is built with precision, featuring specialized parts that ensure durability, efficiency, and safety. Upgrade your everyday with Gevi. Visit us at gevi.com to discover more.
A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Better sleep, inspired by nature. Your back, hips, and shoulders will fall into perfect alignment in any position, meaning that you get deeper, more comfortable rest. Visit ecoterrabeds.com.
Is your Mac running slow? Mac Booster 8 is your all-in-one solution to clean up 20 types of junk files. Get your Mac running like new again with Mac Booster 8. Visit macboost.net today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
The You Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. You like.
Now back to the show. It's the Wicked Boston Show with Cam Stewart here on the Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate you guys tuning in live on YouTube, noon Eastern time, and then, available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Thank you to Zach Burke for keeping us on the air live from behind the glass. We're going to shift our focus from baseball to hockey here and talk about probably the greatest story in the NHL. And I always appreciate you guys that are watching live, getting involved in the chat here. That's the language I'm trying to speak, is English. And Joseph, who's coming in from Montreal, Bruins fan from Montreal, man, the old Ray Bourque special. He asked, before I get to this next story, do you think we need to give Fabian Lysell at least 25 games before we trade him out? And last year, Joseph, my answer would have been different than it is right now, because my answer right now is just no. And part of that is because I think you're better than everyone thought you were going to be. Last year, they probably should have had him up earlier than they did, and just done what you're talking about. Tried him out. 25 games, maybe 30, more than a third of the season there, and just see what he gives you. And for nothing else, to give him better trade value. Right now, he doesn't have any trade value, and I don't think bringing him up for a month is going to help that out anyway, and it's just going to hurt your team. I like Lysell, or I did. I don't have anything against him, but I don't know that he's an NHL player. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that they had guys like Mikey Eyssimont and, Sean Corrali, who albeit plays a different position, but these kind of Tanner Jeannot, they went out and got in free agency. I just don't think he fits into your top six right now. Like that. There's too many guys playing well. You're in a playoff spot. I think they will be for the duration of the season, whether they make it or not. I just don't think there's a spot for Fabian Lysell in your top six, and he might just be a throw-in in some sort of deal. But no, and I get it, man. I was on board with that last year for sure. I thought he should have started as your second line right wing before last season, but it's just. And I think Marco Sturm is having more control over that than we've seen Bruins coaches in the past. And, he's called guys out, he's benched guys and everything, but these guys have responded. And through all of that, he didn't feel the need to have Fabian Lysell in there. So I think this is probably the end of the road for Lysell as a Boston Bruin, but he could be a Providence legend. In this segment, we're not talking about Fabian Lysell, but I do appreciate that question, Joseph. And those of you watching live want to get involved in the comments section. I will certainly be monitoring that as we go throughout the show. But for right now, we got to talk about a guy who's tearing it up for the Boston Bruins right now. Everything is coming up Morgan Geekie. Only Nathan MacKinnon has scored more goals this year in the NHL. He's being trolled by teams' Twitter accounts. He's trolling them back. He gets a surprise appearance on the biggest hockey podcast in the world, outside of the Garden Level Pod with myself and Dan Conlon on Rogue Media Sports Network. And suddenly, it's Morgan Geekie's world, and we're all living in it. And honestly, I'm so happy that he's getting this recognition now. Because Morgan Geekie's story is downright amazing. So a little peek behind the curtain for me as a Bruins fan, probably like my favorite Bruins player of my lifetime is either Patrice Bergeron or Tim Thomas. Tim Thomas made my life so much better in 2011. And his story genuinely is so inspirational. You know, he was a kid growing up in rural Michigan, right outside of Flint, Michigan, where there's no money. Typically, that means no hockey career. And he just busted his ass for everything, man. Like, he's delivering pizzas. He was selling apples just so he could pay to play hockey. You know, he gets one offer really from D1. It's Vermont. He goes undrafted. He's playing in Finland. All of this stuff. It makes for this amazing story. Morgan Geekie has an amazing story. Here's a guy who grew up playing with wood sticks in this tiny farm town in Manitoba with 700 people in it. He's picked in the 3rd round. He's left unprotected in the expansion draft. And then 2 years later, tries to trade him. And nobody wants him. Like, this has to be the end, right? He's left unprotected by his first team, the one that drafted him in the 3rd round. And then this expansion team doesn't even want him anymore. He's an RFA that they just let hit free agency. No qualifying offer. Couldn't even get a team to give up anything for him. But this is where most NHL careers end, right at this moment. You know, you start learning how to farm or sell insurance or coach in your hometown. He's heading to his 3rd organization at age 25. And 2 years later, he's the best goal scorer in the NHL. Stories don't just happen like that. And it was almost the end for Morgan Geekie a couple of times in Boston. Man, it was 1-year deal, you know, off a team that had the greatest regular season ever. And he had an okay year. He had 39 points. And you're looking at that team, that Bruins team from 23-24. And, you know, Geekie had 39 points. Frederick had 40 points. Coyle had 60 points. James Van Riemsdyk gave you a decent year. You know, Kevin Shattenkirk last year of his career. And you look at that team and you think that team overachieved, made the 2nd round because they had Jeremy Swayman in goal and they had a bunch of guys with career years. You know, it's like the 2013 Red Sox. He's had a bunch of guys with fluke career years. That's never going to happen again. And for most of them, it didn't. But for Morgan Geekie, it did. And even last year, he had like 1 goal going into December of last season. Like, that was almost the end for him there. You know, you got Fabian Lysell in the pipeline. Time to give that kid a shot. Georgi Merkulov. You know, he's scoring in the AHL. Is it time to just give him a shot over Morgan Geekie? But he takes off the rest of the season. He ends the year with 33 goals. Gets a contract extension for 6 years. And again, I'm one of the guys on here. There's a lot of people saying it, but I was one of the guys on here saying, really? 6 years for Morgan Geekie? You think he's ever going to do that again? And you can't play him up and down the lineup because he has to play with Pastrnak. Well, it turns out all those things are false. Not only does he have the 22 goals and the 32 points in 31 games this year, but he leads the entire NHL in goals in 2025. Since January 1st, he has 47 goals. He's on pace to score nearly 60 for the Bruins this year. Only 2 Bruins have ever done that, by the way. Phil Esposito and David Pastrnak. Those are the only 2 to ever do it. This guy is on the tear of his life right now. And it's easy to forget this was a guy who was playing with these old Wood Sherwood sticks that were given to his dad because he was playing on a senior team with Pat Falloon. You know, it's crazy. It was supposed to be luck last year, right? 22% shooting percentage, 2nd in the league. This year, again, with a pretty good sample size, 27.5%. It's nuts. It's just nuts, man. And what's crazier still is that he's not just scoring 33 goals playing alongside David Pastrnak for a team that finishes in 15th place. This is a Bruins team that is winning. They're in a playoff spot, and they are because of him. And a huge part of it is Morgan Geekie. Right now, he's the best goal scorer on a playoff team. That's crazy. Now, obviously, David Pasternak's the best player, right? Obviously. And I think this actually proves the point a little bit because of how good Morgan Geekie is. But you look at even the games without Pastrnak, because this was supposed to be a year, if you didn't have Pastrnak or McAvoy in the lineup, this team was supposed to be screwed, right? Like completely screwed. And yet, in the 5 games without Pasta, Morgan Geekie had 9 points, 5 goals and 4 assists in those 5 games. That is banana land. That is crazy good. For a guy who doesn't even assist, he's got 10 assists all year. 4 of them are without arguably the greatest goal scorer in the NHL, actually. By the way, I saw this great YouTube video after you're done with this. Big Head Hockey did it. They do awesome YouTube content. And it was all about how, this guy is the best goal scorer in the NHL right now. And he goes through Morgan Geekie's story, and then he completely throws a curveball at you. But it's a fantastic look inside this Bruins team and Morgan Geekie and exactly what he can do offensively. Like, this kid has the traits to be a 30 or 40 goal scorer in the NHL. His shot is that good. Clocked at 103.3 miles an hour this year, hardest slap shot in the league. And it's going in a lot. In a time where NHL goalies are guessing less than ever, right? They're calculating where to go. Morgan Geekie's taken up the strategy of just blast the frickin' puck and put it on net. Man, he could score from anywhere in the offensive zone. And now he might just be getting that respect. Because right now he should be in MVP talks. I know it's crazy, but he should be in Hart Trophy talks. Where would the Bruins be without Morgan Geekie's goal-scoring ability? They certainly wouldn't be inside those top 4 seeds in the Atlantic Division. That's for damn sure. And I think Canada should be really giving him a look. I don't want to say it too loud because I don't want him playing against the U.S., but you can stick him on the 4th line, and he could just pound in goals. That's all he does, score goals. He gets up in the morning, he laces up his skates, and he puts the puck in the net. And then sometimes he trolls teams on Twitter and people on Twitter. He's the ultimate no-frills player. He basically grew up on a farm in Manitoba. He's got a buzz cut, no drip. He wears number 39, which is an ugly-ass number. No, not deking people out of their skates, not putting the goalie's jock straps in the rafters, just pounding the puck and scoring goals. He's not even interested in assists. He just likes scoring. It's an awesome story. It's one of the best stories going in the NHL right now. I wish you could buy his jersey at the pro shop, but maybe that just goes to show that there's still some respect to be earned from Morgan Geekie. But my God, what a player. And what he's doing for this Bruins team is phenomenal, if not borderline miraculous. Going into this year, we said David Pasternak's going to score 40, but who's the next guy who scores 20? I couldn't give you a guaranteed name for the next guy who'd score 20. Morgan Geekie's going to score fucking 50. And he's even humble. He's like, I'm waiting for this luck to run out. Maybe at some point it's not luck. This is a big sample size here. This is a big sample size, basically an entire season this year, and he scored 47 goals in 2025. So is Morgan Geekie for real? Is this the contract of the summer? Let me know in the comments section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We come at you live on YouTube every weekday, noon Eastern time, and wherever you get your podcasts as well. So if you're new here, do us a favor, like the video and subscribe. Find us wherever you find your podcasts. It's your lunchtime alternative to Boston Sports Talk Radio right here on the Wicked Boston Show. We'll see you tomorrow.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious.
Open Goal USA, we're revolutionizing training for both soccer and lacrosse with our innovative portable rebounders. Perfect for players of all ages and skill levels. Visit OpenGoAAALUSA.com and elevate your training today.
Farmhounds offers natural treats and chews made with quality products that support family farm, regenerative agriculture, and humane farming practices. Give your dog the best with wholesome, organic ingredients that promote health and happiness. Shopmounts.com.
Get paid faster with Bill, the easiest way to send, receive, and manage your payments. No more delays, no more hassle. Whether you're a freelancer or a business, Bill makes payments seamless and secure, simple, fast, and reliable. Sign up today at Bill.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.